Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bella Gamer, and we're back with another archetype. Before we get into it, spoilers. This archetype comes from one of the APs. So if you're running one of the adventure paths for Pathfinder, be aware that spoilers might be in this video, though after reading the archetype, I didn't see any necessarily narrative spoilers. And I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to mention what book or even what AP it's from. So now you don't know what it could be a spoiler for unless you go look it up yourself. Good news. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about another prestige archetype. I'm calling them prestige archetypes because you can't pick them up until at least level 8, which was about when you could pick up prestiges in Pathfinder 1st Edition. And today we're talking about the Golem Grafter. The Golem Grafter is an incredibly interesting archetype where you're essentially modifying your character with pieces from different types of golems to enhance your physical prowess and durability. It's an incredibly interesting archetype, though mostly focused on physical archetypes, so martial archetype or martial classes more specifically. So casters might not be super interested in it, but it is incredibly interesting. And I wanted to point out as well, this can actually be used if you're playing characters with physical, impairments. If they're missing an arm, a leg, or whatever, this can be used to kind of show even cybernetic styles of improvement. So if you're playing characters from a wide variety of campaigns that are using, maybe like cybernetics or something, Golem Grafter can be a very interesting way to kind of implement that on top of the other, mobility aids that Pathfinders presented in their games. Anyway, let's get to the archetype. All right, starting off, this is, like I mentioned, you need to be level 8 to select this. This is the first archetype of its kind that an ally can actually meet the requirements for you. Now, the requirements to be a Golem Grafter is you need to be expert in Arcana and crafting, or you have an ally who has that and is willing to graft golem bits onto you, which is incredibly awesome. And this has one of the best dedication feats I have ever seen, just because it essentially gives you 2 general feats that normally, you need to invest 2 general feats in, which general feats don't come very often in Pathfinder. So what it gives you is, first, you increase your maximum hit points by your level. So you essentially get toughness. And because it's not any kind of type of bonus, this is actually combinable with toughness, allowing you to get twice your level in HP if you take the general feat as well, which is incredibly powerful. Not only that, but you gain physical resistance to all types of physical damage. You gain just physical damage resistance, except adamantine, equal to the number of class feats you have of Golem Grafter, which is incredibly powerful because, 1, you get 1 initially, but 2, even the Fury Barbarian, which gives you resistance against weapons specifically, doesn't give you physical resistance, which is absolutely crazy. So you honestly get a fair amount of HP just from selecting the base dedication feat. It's very solid, and the best part is most of the other feats are pick whichever ones fit you best. And the more you pick up, the better. So this is just a really powerful dedication, and it sets up the rest of Golem Grafter. Next up is a Cursed Clay Fist, and this is very powerful. You do need to be expert in unarmed strikes, which, unless you're a spellcaster, any class is, though even spellcasters get it by level 11, which is pretty close to this level. You'd have to wait a level to get it. But anyway, so what it does is it replaces your normal fist unarmed strike with a clay fist. When you strike with this fist, any enemy that you strike takes a -2 status penalty to saving throws against curses for an hour. No check, nothing. Just an hour. This actually gives Golem Grafter a unique synergy with Cursed Maelstrom, which is another archetype you can actually check out on the channel. And, I'll even put a thing up here if you want to go check out Cursed Maelstrom after you're done looking in this video. But this is a very good effect. A -2 status penalty to its curse effect specifically is really, really good, honestly. It's very interesting. Now, the fist you get is okay. It does replace the agile and finesse of a normal fist, but rather than doing, I think, a D4, it does a D8, which is good. But as far as like unarmed strikes are concerned, a D8 with no additional, well, I guess technically it still has the non-lethal trait, which is very interesting. But so you would still have a -2 if you're trying to kill someone with your fist. Not that you would try because it's cursed fist, and the point is really to give curse effects. But it feels weird that it's a D8 damage, but it doesn't remove the non-lethal trait, which is very, very interesting. Next up is Quicken Heartbeat, and this one's interesting. I guess, okay, first of all, I actually didn't mention this, but I should for flavor. So the initial dedication feat gives you the flesh golem kind of benefit. It makes your skin very tough by treating it alchemically. The last one is Clay Fist, which is for I think the clay golem or stone golem. It's one of the ones that curses. I think it is clay golem. This one gives you essentially the heart of a quicksilver golem, which that's a very high level golem, first of all. But it's very interesting because it's a very bad feat. So once per turn, you can spend an action to either reduce your current slowed condition by 1, which is kind of bad, or you can give yourself you can essentially give yourself a quickened action next turn that you can use to either stride or strike. The reason why this is bad is because unless you can't do anything for a round and you kind of want to stock up on an action, there's not many opportunities to use this. In fact, most effects in this game make you slowed 1, maybe slowed 2, which even then you can't really do any. There's not many times you're slowed and can actually do something about it. If this is a reaction, that would be something else, because when you're slowed, unless you didn't know, if it has a duration, then you're slowed for that duration. But if you just have this slowed condition, then you lose actions on your next turn, and then it's done. So if you're slowed 2, your next turn, you lose 2 actions, and the slow is done. So on that next turn, you couldn't use an action to actually remove it. This only works if you're currently slowed with a duration type spell, but then, because it's a sustained effect, you would essentially regain it on your next turn anyway. Granted, it would, I guess, spare your next turn, but you're still giving an action for an action. Like, this is not an equitable trade, really, because you're just trading actions, which, I guess makes it equal, but you're losing an action this turn to restore an action next turn. Nothing is gained, so it's kind of a nothing feat. And to get quickened next turn, quickened 1, which is very strange, because I've never seen quickened with I've never seen quickened 2. Quickened 1 is very, very interesting, because it implies that you can be more quickened, which I haven't seen in the game, honestly, which is very strange. But anyway, it just takes an action away to give you a much more limited action next turn. So that is actually even less equal than just removing the slow condition. Overall, Quicken Heartbeat, not a great feat. If you're playing in a game and your DM loves slowing you a bunch, sure, maybe. But even then, it probably won't do you any good. So I think this is just a bad feat, but it does have the added benefit of you selecting it. You gain it plus 1 additional resistance to physical damage. So, that's actually not that bad. All right, next up is Legs of Stone, where you get the legs of a stone golem, right? And this one is good-ish. It has some interesting things. So what it does is it allows you to gain a +2 status bonus, so status on circumstance, to your fortitude and reflex DCs against being shoved or tripped, respectively. Now, That's okay. It does give you some other benefits, though. One, you do not need a free hand to shove, which is really cool. This allows you to be a two-handed weapon fighter with a non-shove weapon and continue shoving enemies. And it has an additional quirk where when you shove an enemy, you can instead go an equal distance the opposite direction rather than following like normally you can do with shove. This can create a lot of space between you and the enemy, though unless you have something that increases your shove distance, which there are some things that can do, most enemies will be able to catch up to you unless it's a particularly slow enemy. I do like the ability, and you don't have to do it that way. So overall, this is a really good feat. It increases your resistance against trip, which trip is one of the worst conditions in the game because it just makes you flat-footed. You have to stand up if the enemies have attack of opportunity. That's really rough. And I mean, not often are you shoved, but hey, that might stop you from being pushed into some spikes or something. So overall, not bad. A lot better than Quick and Heartbeat. And we have one more feat, but before we get to that, I need y'all to take your grafted hand and hit that subscribe button down in the corner. And I think it's actually down over here now. A new setup, so I'm getting myself backwards. It really helps out the channel if you want to see more archetypes like this. I'm the only channel that really goes as depth into them, so you know genuinely when they come out. Plus, Rage of Elements is coming out soon, and I will be trying to get an early copy so I can show you all some of the archetypes are showing up in the new book. So if you want to see that, please hit that sub button. Anyway, let's get to the last feat. The last feat is Iron Lung, which sounds very familiar. It's very relevant nowadays, isn't it? Iron Lung is a very interesting feat, and what it allows you to do is whenever you are subject to an inhaled poison, you get one level of success better on your save against it. Just automatically. It's not like success to crit success. If you fail the check, you actually succeed. And if you crit fail, you actually just fail. So you can't fail to inhale poisons anymore. But this actually has an additional benefit. This allows you to, if you've been within an inhalable poison within the last minute, you can, as a 2-action ability once per hour, so you can't do this repeatedly, you can exhale that poison in a 15-foot cone, keeping all the poison's normal effects and abilities. Now, why that is actually really good is if you have a mage that is using, for instance, Cloud Kill, a very powerful spell, you can get into the spell. You can take little or no damage from the spell if you're a martial character, and then you can yourself exhale that poison for the same effect. And due to multiple exposure rules for poison specifically, if you expose an enemy to a poison and they fail the new check, their poison actually, or whatever poison effect they currently are under, if it's the same one, I should say, does increase by an additional stage. This actually, excuse me, this actually allows you to increase rapidly the stages that an enemy is under in a poison if you have a spellcaster or even an alchemist who has some kind of poison that they're throwing on enemies as long as it's inhalable. That's really good, and I can see some very interesting combinations with this one feat alone. But that is Golem Grafter. It's an incredibly good one. It gives you a lot of defensive capabilities, some not so good abilities, but other really, very powerful abilities, and it allows your character to operate in very unique and different ways, even with something as simple as shoving. So, I think it's very good overall, and a pretty solid one, plus the physical resistance you can get from it. I mean, just getting physical resistance 1 for the initial dedication is incredibly powerful, plus the additional toughness of, getting an additional your level times HP is just good. It's just good. Any class I feel like could really benefit from this in some way or another, though this is definitely a much more martial-based one. But that's going to be it for me. I hope y'all enjoy. Let me know what you think of Golem Grafter down below. I think there probably are some really interesting synergies with this one, and I'd like to hear any of your guys' takes on it. That's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.